Enchantée.
Hello lovelies, I'm Angela and this is Parisienne Farmgirl. Bienvenue and welcome to the channel. Today, as promised over on Instagram, is our kitchen Q&A. So you asked me questions and I'm going to answer them. The first question is from Miranda, and I think there's going to be some other questions that spin off of this one, and it is, what kind of range do we have? We have a Leconte range, and it is the color Delft Blue. Leconte is a small town in France, and they are made to order, and we waited about a year for this range, and we saved for it for many years before that, and I'm absolutely in love with it. You may know that I really enjoy the show called The Durrells in Corfu, and it's based on a series of books, or maybe just one book. But in that show, there is a housemaid, and her name is Lucrezia, and she's a workhorse. She really serves the family, and they call her Luga. So our family affectionately calls our range Luga because she works so hard for us. We don't have a microwave. We cook just about everything from scratch. I cook just about everything from scratch. And she is sort of the jewel of the kitchen. Zero regrets. I've had her for about 15 months and she's perfection. I love it. I love it that she's the center, the focal point when you walk into the kitchen, and she serves us very well. The next question sort of spins off of that one, and Arcadia Days is asking my thoughts on not having a hood for Luga. This is a great question because I know it would be better to have a hood. However, we live in this crazy house. If you've been following along for long enough, you know that. And we have no ductwork. So if I were to put a hood in, it would have to be sort of fitted somehow around the beams. And then we would have to take a pipe or something and run it along one of the beams and take it outside. And so far, I don't really want to do that. So the downside of that is that my copper over the range and light bulbs and things, they get greasy. I'm assuming that happens in most kitchens, and it is fall. Now it's officially fall, so you're gonna have to pardon the flies because we do live on a farm and the door is opening and closing constantly. So if you watch the channel long enough, you'll see all the fall videos have house flies. But as far as doing that, I haven't really wanted to. Now I've seen the really cool invention advertised on Instagram that's a little portable exhaust fan that you can use, but I think there's a waiting list for them. I haven't done that. So for right now, I do have the summer kitchen outside. If something's gonna be really spritzy and nasty, like frying hamburgers or something, sometimes I'll go outside and do it, especially if Luga is freshly cleaned. But for right now, we don't have a hood for the range and we're doing just fine. I think for probably my past, I don't think I've had a hood ever in our whole marriage, because the first thing I did as a newlywed was tear the microwave out and put up a faux hood. And then I did the same in our next house. In our rental, the range was in the middle of the kitchen. There was no exhaust fan, so I'm pretty used to it at this point. The next question is from Elena, and Elena, your guess is as good as mine. She wants to know when we're going to finally change out the cabinets. So I'll see if I can find some old B-roll of the kitchen and pop it in right here. So if you're brand new, you can see what the kitchen looked like when we bought the house 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago. There's one chunk of kitchen cabinets left. I hate them. I painted them pretty slapdash. The paint is not doing well. I know there's better ways to do that. That's our background. But I thought by now I would have found a new piece. So we're coming to the point where we've just decided that we are going to fashion a new piece. What I really would like is a draper's table. They're quite unaffordable. So I think this winter we're going to go ahead and make one ourselves and have a piece of Carrara marble fashioned for the top. And we're going to put it on casters just like this sort of island that we have here already. That's an old workbench from a garage, so that we can continue with this unfitted kitchen idea and still have that flexibility to move things around, which is what I did a few months ago. I made a big change in the kitchen. I'm still really enjoying it. And I think by fashioning this new draper's table, we're going to be able to do that. It will have drawers, hopefully, and a big space underneath for baskets for storage, which sort of leads to this next question. And Sweet Sarah wants to know, this is great, real life, where does all the kitchen clutter go? Keys, mail, random crayons, pens, receipts, coins, etc. So I don't know if you can see it. The sun is going down, so I've got you positioned kind of over by the window, and hopefully there's even enough light. I'll find out when I'm editing. But back here I've got 3 drawers. That top one is your typical family drawer. So that's where we have the pens and the receipts and the paper clips and the charger cords and just all that like random stuff that circulates in any kitchen, especially when you have a big family. That is in there. Bills go to where we pay bills. What else did you mention? I try to keep receipts moving along. You know, we're self-employed, so we have to stay organized with that sort of stuff. And I try to keep clutter to a minimum because I like stuff. So I try to keep like the you know, broken crayons, for example. Like broken crayons, they're going to the garbage. The minute mail gets opened, the envelope is getting shredded or going in the garbage or going in the recycle. I try to really keep things moving, just like any kitchen. I have to go through that junk drawer probably every 45 days, clean it out, spruce it up, get rid of what doesn't need to be in there. Nerf bullets, you know, that I pick up off the kitchen floor, and just keep things moving that way. Steph wants to know if my kids' items end up in my workspace, and if so, how do I manage that? Right now our biggest problem is chewing gum. I'm forever taking a butcher knife and scraping chewing gum off the floor, no matter how hard I try to teach people that's not what we do with gum. We don't just let it fall out of our mouths, we throw it in the garbage. But I have little people, and we like gum in this house, so that's a big problem. Nerf bullets, you've probably seen videos where there's like a Nerf bullet just eternally wedged between my cabinet and the range. Legos are always floating around, but I try to say, as much as I can, don't bring the Legos downstairs. Like, don't bring them into circulation, because they just get lost. And I know they're really special to the kids, and they don't want their little minifigures just getting lost in the routine of a home. So I try to encourage people, if you care about your things, keep them in your space. But it's just like any house, where at the end of the day, okay, here's your stuff. Mom, put your stuff on the stairs, take your stuff. But the trick for that, this kitchen gets like cleaned at the end of the day. The dishes are done, the floors are cleaned up. It's not always perfect, but it's ready to start the next day. So that means everybody's stuff, including mine, including my husband's shoes or whatever, or my receipts, like everything gets moved on out. It takes a little extra time at the end of the day when I'm tired and I don't want to do anymore, but I'm always happy the next morning that we did. The next question is from, and forgive me, I don't know what your handle is. It looks like Norse Squeak. I don't know, but you know who you are. She's asking about the inspiration for the design of this kitchen. So I don't really have, unlike my bedroom, where a long time ago I read Claudia Strasser's book, The Paris Apartment, and in one of those spreads in this book, I fell in love with this bedroom, and I said, I'm going to try to mimic this bedroom as much as I can to learn how to do this. And that's a really great thing to do. Don't be afraid to completely mimic someone else's style. It sort of gives you legs to stand on as you're learning how to develop your own. But with this kitchen, I wasn't really fashioning it off of any one specific space. There was a book that I found probably 15 years ago called Provence Style. I'll pop it up on the screen somewhere. I can't see my screen, so I don't know where it will end up. Called Provence Style. Ironically, I bought it up here when we were on vacationing here one year. And it was a really beautiful look at homes in Provence. And it sort of took you through the furnishings, the stone, the specific colors that they use there, and I fell in love with that book. I don't know that this kitchen looks like anything in that book, but that book was a huge inspiration for me in that while I might have wanted my bedroom space to be more Parisian and more gilded and satin and feathers and, you know, definitely more like Paris apartment style, many other areas of my home, especially the kitchen, I wanted to have more of a Provençal French country look. So that was an inspiration for me. And then throughout the years, you know, I've fallen in love with people like British designer Robert Kime, the late Robert Kime, and he's really influenced my love of Persian rugs and even bringing them into interesting spaces like the kitchen. So my inspiration comes from many sources, but as far as the kitchen, I'm on my own legs with the kitchen. So it's not like 20 years ago or 25 years ago as a newlywed where I was trying to get a feel for what I wanted my house to look like. Right now I know what I want it to look like. It's just a matter of sourcing it or being able to afford it. Okay, my friend Petra, Little Spoons of Joy, asked if I've decided on flooring, and this sort of goes with Rickard's Rest. She's asking what a good resource is for quality reproduction hexagonal tiles. I remember, again, being a newlywed and broke, seeing terracotta tiles at the Home Depot on Halsted in Chicago. And they were extremely expensive. And I just remember falling in love. And that was right about when I got that book, Provence Style, that I just referenced. And I just thought, this is it. This is the flooring I want for my kitchen. I don't care how long it takes, but someday I will have those tiles in my kitchen. So I'm still working on that. But you can get beautiful hexagonal tiles. I did work for a client last year and we sourced tile from the Tile Bar. What I like about the Tile Bar, and I'm sure you can do this on other websites as well, but they'll ship you samples very affordably, 5 at a time, and they have an option where you can take a picture of your space and see the tile in your space. So in this space, I have contemplated navy blue tiles, I have contemplated dark green, and I'm always just coming back around to the fact that I want some form of terracotta, and so that is what I'm holding out for. But I would check out the Tile Bar and probably still Home Depot. There's got to be terracotta tiles out there somewhere. Lori Bolton wants to know, where did you ever find that gorgeous copper sink? That's one of our earlier episodes we did here on the YouTube channel. So when we bought the house, I thought, well, if we're going to do this crazy project of taking this really very 1980s house and trying to make it look like a French farmhouse, then let's document it and let's put it on YouTube. Why not? I had no idea. So the copper sink, my mom is a picker, and she called me one day and said, I have a friend who has a barn full of junk, and in the corner is what I think is a copper sink. And it's filthy and it's covered with cobwebs and it doesn't even resemble copper, but I think you would like it. And I think you could get it for about $150. So this is years ago. This is probably a decade ago. And I drove over and I just bought the sink. We were renting. I had no use for it. I didn't ever know, but I thought I would be a fool to not buy a copper sink for $150. And I sat on it until we moved here. Now the irony, the blessed, beautiful irony, is that it fits perfectly under the windows of this kitchen. It's a little bit rigged. It's still sitting on those ugly logs. It is not the way it's going to be forever, but that's where I found it. And I've seen one. You know, I've done that thing on with Google where you can do an image search, and I've done that, and I've seen one that's the half size, and it sold at an auction, but it was posted as a Chicago butler's sink. So it's quite old. I do have the original faucets. I have 2 out of 4 of the original faucets. I've used them in the past. Right now I have a copper tray, like a greenhouse, a gardening tray, covering 2 of the holes, and that's where I keep some of my cleaning products, and an oil lamp right now. I wish I had all 4. I wish they were all piped. I just have cheapy, really cheap, horrible faucets on it right now, and I will be hopefully upgrading one of those this winter, probably a nice big brass, unfinished brass gooseneck in the center. But yeah, I've had this sink for a long time, even before I needed it, even before I knew where it would end up, and I found it filthy in a barn. Okay, Hilltop Cottage, how are you, my friend? She says, I know a lot of these names are very familiar over on Instagram. Please tell us about the beautiful cabinet with the glass doors on your counter. And also, your kitchen looks huge. How big is it? Big enough. I'm not quite sure how big the kitchen is. I'm thinking it is a good size. I'm thinking it's probably about 300 square feet. We took out a huge pantry. So where the range is, there was a huge pantry jutting into the room, and where the island is right now, that was ceiling cabinetry and an electric range. So it was very partitioned. It definitely felt like where I'm sitting right now was the dining room, and that was the kitchen. There was a lot more delineation than we have now, but we opened it up for obvious reasons. I do need to measure it because that would probably make my tile hunting more efficient. It is a good size. There's a lot of open space in the middle, which allows me to do the whole unfitted thing. I can move my furniture around. The cabinet with the doors on it, it is beautiful. It photographs beautifully. It's pretty warped. It's pretty rough in real life, and it squeaks something terrible every time we put dishes away. It is where it is right now because that's the only place it can go. When I get rid of that stretch of cabinetry, like we talked about a few minutes ago, I don't quite know what I'm going to do with it, but I really like it. It has sort of a bakery feel. That was at a resale shop, and I felt, just due to the condition, because it's warped on the top and the wood is cracked and the back's falling off, it was really overpriced. So I stalked this piece all season. And finally, at the end of the season, it was half off, and I was standing in front of it, just sort of hemming and hawing, and I said, okay, I'm gonna get it. And I started taking dishes out, and I was just still kind of just like, do I want this? I wanted to take the dishes out, see what I thought, and I heard a woman behind me talking about it, and I will confess, that's when my alpha female kicked in, and I'm like, well, now I am getting it, because she's talking about it, I gotta have it. So I cleared everything out. I'm like, I'm buying this, sorry. And I don't regret it. It's a great piece, it's fun, it adds some interest to the space. The glass, you know, kind of makes it look a little bit more elegant, because there's a lot of rustic things in this kitchen. I'd like to find a way to use it. I might try to find some more brackets, like I have my copper shelves on, and put it up a little higher. There's a lot of pieces I have my eye on, like a baker's rack, and there's going to be some changes over the next year in this kitchen. It's just all a matter of timing and getting it to work right. And that's the wonderful thing about an unfitted kitchen, and that's also the challenge, is if you have a piece and you're going to invest in a piece, because of the, or for me, for having it be unfitted, I need it to be flexible. I want to move this kitchen around. I want to be able to be creative and not have it always look the same. So you have that great flexibility when you don't have all the built-ins, is that you can move it around, but you have to have your items make sense in multiple locations too. So speaking of the brackets and the copper pots, Windrose Farm would like to know where I got my pot hanging rod. That is very, very homemade. So there are beautiful pot hanging racks that you can find from Duval or wherever online. Mine is 2 brackets that I got at the antique store. It's a piece of shelf wood, salvaged shelf that was sitting in my garage. And I grabbed an old flagpole and I was going to install it, and my husband said, you know, I have copper pipe in the garage if you'd rather use copper. Of course I'd rather use copper. So we just sort of made it, and I'm just using hardware store S-hooks, but I would like to get proper, beautiful brass S-hooks to hang my pots off of. So it's very, very homemade. You could do something very similar, maybe while you're holding out for the real thing, or you know what? Very homemade is good enough too. It works very well. It looks nice, and the brackets were not cheap, because those big iron, when they're big like that, they're not cheap. You might be able to find some, but I think the whole project was less than $100. So let's see, what bothers you the most about your kitchen? Any remodel regrets? I don't have any regrets about what we've torn out, but I think the amount of time it's going to take me to hand paint the tile, which if you're following over on Instagram, you know I'm hand painting my tiles. I'm going to tile that whole back section like Monet's kitchen. It's going to take probably over a year because my time is very limited. And what frustrates me the most is the floors. They're gross. I can't wait to put tile down. I know everybody has their opinions about tile. It's going to be great for me. I cannot wait to put tile down in this kitchen. Where do you purchase all your copper, and is it high maintenance, is a question by Life of Wonder while we're talking about the copper rack and everything. I get my copper here, there, and everywhere. Some pieces are from the flea market in France, and some pieces are from estate sales. Some pieces are from the resale shop. When I'm shopping for copper, what I'm looking for is, if I'm going to be using it with acidic food, I'm looking for pieces that don't need to be re-tinned. And so that means that I can't see the copper through the tin. If you can see the copper through the tin, you need to have it re-tinned, or at the very least, just use it for baking, for low acid foods. That might not even be accurate. You might, if there's tin that's wearing off, you might need to go and just get it re-tinned. I have had pieces re-tinned, and it's a beautiful thing to take a piece of copper that has beauty and dignity and has been handmade and give it new life. So I buy it. I've purchased my copper everywhere. Flea markets here and in France. And I got a beautiful casserole dish last month at one of the local resale shops, stamped made in France. It weighs about 20 pounds. It's gorgeous. So I think the key is to learn about copper. There's going to be different qualities. You have to remember that copper comes from the earth, and it's different in different parts of the world. So there's Korean copper, there's Indian copper, there's Norwegian copper, there's French copper. Goodness gracious, I mean, I'm on Lake Michigan. We have the Upper Peninsula copper. It's going to be different and sort of have different colorings wherever you, from whatever country it's coming from, and the quality is going to have those variations as well. I think what we're going to need to do is a part 2 for this video, but I'm going to close with this because this is kind of fun. Many of you know I opened a new online shop finally. You've been asking for it for a long time. So I'm trying to pick treasures. I have been picking treasures that really represent Parisienne Farmgirl style, sort of my look in your home. And this is fun because I am working with a candle designer on a Parisienne Farmgirl scent. And Anna Stone Smith is asking, if you had to choose a scent, what does your kitchen smell like? That is a wonderful question, and we're going to have to look at that in the future. I think my kitchen probably has herbal scents wafting through it, I hope. Black peppercorn for sure. And then there are scents, oils and herbs and roots that I like vetiver, that you can smell in the house because I enjoy them. So I'm hoping to curate a candle that has like a very Parisienne Farmgirl vibe to it. My birds are getting loud. I've brought them in from the conservatory because it's a little cold out there at night, and the cat was sitting next to them and giving them a proper scare, and now he's moved, so they're going to get really loud. So that's the second clue that we should probably do a part 2 on this video. So stay tuned. I will do that. I'll finish answering these questions. If you have any more, put them that are kitchen related, put them in the comments, and we'll do our best to address those in Kitchen Q&A part 2. I love your interest in this space. This is a great creative space for me, obviously culinary wise, and then just the fact that it's not done. And I've taken my time out of necessity and out of creativity in really sort of trying to formulate what I want to happen in this space. So we have plans for the winter. I look forward to seeing how it comes out, you know, how this space evolves, and your enthusiasm and interest in the project it's fun for me, so I appreciate it. So I love that you're here. I would love for you to stick around, watch another video, and make sure you've subscribed, of course. If you want to do some flea marketing in Paris with me, check out my Paris flea market trips. I have some spots left for April and one for October next year, one spot left there. So I will see you again very soon. À bientôt.